This is a recording from the Sunday, January 31, 2016 meeting of the BC Humanist Association in Vancouver. To learn more about humanism and to support our work, visit bchumanist.ca.
All right, I think that's it. Our speaker today is Cherise Louie, and she's from the Canadian Blood Services. And we're going to be sponsoring a blood collection day, so Cherise is going to talk about blood donation. But she's also going to talk a little about stem cell research and other blood-related issues, which I think we'll find interesting. So thank you, Cherise.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joanne. Wait, hey, great, can you hear me? I feel as if this microphone's right against my face, so let me know if you can't hear me, people in the back. Thank you again for having me here today. I want to particularly thank Sonia and Ulrich for having me join and inviting me to speak. I'm very excited about this, and I'm ready to answer all your questions at the very end. But before I start, I just want to see a show of hands. Who here has donated blood before? Holy moly. That's amazing. Okay, great. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes
Holy
moly.
moly.
or just moly.
Just moly.
Guacamole.
Because we're good without God.
Yes. Guacamole. There we go.
Guacamole.
Guacamole. This is absolutely amazing to see, because I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when I go to universities or high schools and I talk about blood donation, people just look at me with like the blank face. They don't really understand. They don't understand the concept and the altruistic fact about blood donation, and how when you donate blood, you're literally giving your lifeblood to another person, being able to save their life and have an impact on that. I mean, I heard that last week you had another presentation about fundraising and like where the allocation of the fundraising dollars and where they go. Sometimes you get like 30% of the money that you donate actually goes to programs and the rest go to administration, et cetera, et cetera. Well, with blood donation and with Canadian Blood Services, essentially 100% goes to the patient. So I think that's a pretty good number right there, if I can say so myself. And it's fabulous. And everyone always talks about, okay, like back in the day we used to have the same saying: when you donate blood, you hear how it's donate blood, one donation can save up to 3 lives. You remember that? Well, that was because when your blood was donated, it would be divided into plasma, platelets, and red blood cells. We've kind of changed that now. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that later in terms of the impact of your donation. But really, because like when you donate blood, one unit can technically go to one person. Excuse me. So Sonia has taken it upon herself, and I'd love to support her in this, in organizing a blood drive. BCHA is going to be adopting a clinic of the blood donor clinic on Saturday, February the 14th. So if you're 13th, getting there slowly. I have Valentine's Day on the mind. That's fine. Encouraging everyone to come out if you can donate. If not, feel free to come as support or hold the hands of someone else, or in the other words, in the spirit of Valentine's Day, bring a date to donate. There's nothing's more romantic than sitting on a blood donor bed with your partner and giving blood at the same time. How great is that?
Where is this?
Right. Sorry about that. So the location is going to be at the Oak Street Blood Donor Clinic on 32nd and Oak. So it's right beside Children's Hospital. There's free parking, just to enforce that. There's free parking, and it takes about an hour to donate blood. I'll talk a little bit later about how we're going to be donating. We have a sign-up sheet at the front. First appointment starts at 11:15. Last appointment's at 11:55. So we got a couple spots available. So if you're interested, come and sign up, or just bring someone else who can donate. Right, so then you're going to have an appointment with Sonia, but if you can't make it on that day, or an appointment on that sheet, but if you can't make it on that day, feel free to make it your own individual appointment on any other day, or you can walk in. People have, I know in the past, especially the Red Cross, you have been able to walk in, you just show up and you just kind of get in. Canadian Blood Services now we're moving towards, we have an appointment template system. So when you book your appointment, you're more or less guaranteed, well not more or less, you are going to be donating on that day, and that way we can expect you. It's kind of like when you book a doctor's appointment rather than a walk-in clinic, because we want to be respectful of your time too. So a little bit more about what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to start off talking about blood what we are as Canadian Blood Services as an organization. And then I'm going to talk about blood donation, how to donate, eligibility requirements, and all the little fun stuff that goes with that. After that, I'm going to move on to talking about stem cell donation. Not quite stem cell research, but stem cell donation, bone marrow donation. Because there's a lot of conversations about that right now, especially when you hear about patients who are looking for a match. Okay, so who we are, Canadian Blood Services. Everyone calls us the Red Cross. I still get high school students calling us the Red Cross. And I was like, what are you? You weren't even born at that time. How do you even know about that? So Canadian Blood Services was started by the Canadian government in about 1998 as a result from the Creever, why is this escaping my mind right now?
The scandal.
Yes, there was a huge blood transfusion scandal that happened. Thousands of Canadians received tainted blood products, and as a result, they ended up being infected with transmissible diseases, Hep B, Hep C, HIV, diseases that they never had when they went into surgery. Or even mothers who just got mothers who were giving birth and they needed blood products suddenly had Hep B. It's still so fresh, and that's why Canadian Blood Services has such a strict eligibility requirement, because we don't want to go back to that. I'm going to talk about that later anyways. I feel like I'm just getting ahead of myself. We also, so on top of blood donation, we have about 4 other pillars that we are taking care of. Blood donation. Second one is the One Match Stem Cell and Bone Marrow Registry. The third one is now the National Public Cord Blood Bank, which I'm going to be talking about later. It's a new initiative. It's very exciting. And organ and tissue donation. That's a huge thing. We work very closely with Health Canada to make sure that all patients who are receiving blood products receive the best and safest blood possible. And we also do a lot in research as well. We have a huge research facility out at UBC, and as well as a research donation clinic that you can donate to research, which is what I do. It's very exciting. Okie dokie, blood donation, the 101. So there's a couple steps when it goes to blood donation. It starts off with recruitment, which is what I'm here to do. I'm here to educate you, put it in your mind to think about blood donation. A lot of people, they don't, as I'm pretty sure with a lot of you, you've donated blood in the past, it just kind of fell off your schedule, or you are a dedicated blood donor, you do it every 56 days. But the huge thing is that a lot of our donors are aging out. They're getting a little bit, older. They're starting to need our blood products. So I call it karma. I don't know what you would call it here. But
Tit for tat.
Tit for tat, exactly. I donate blood now. Maybe I'll need to receive blood in the future. It's all in the circle of life. But we are needing new blood donors. We are finding that, especially in the younger generation, not a lot of people know about blood donation. They don't know how easy it is and the impact that it can have in saving someone's life. They know about it. They're like, yeah, okay. But I have a lot of people asking me like, oh, so a lot of misconceptions going on there about blood donation. Just like, oh, like you just take all of my blood? I'm like, no. I would like to, but technically no. It's about 500 milliliters of blood that you give when you donate. So it's about a water bottle or so. Ooh. Anyway, so there's recruitment there. The actual donation part, I'm going to talk about how to donate later. It's only 1 hour it takes to donate blood to save a life. When I say 1 hour, it only takes about 5 to 15 minutes to actually donate blood. They're just like, oh, I sit there for an entire hour. I'm like, no. Yes.
Are there restrictions on whether or not you can give blood? For example, I'm on blood thinners. Can I give blood?
Unfortunately, not for blood thinners. A lot of medication that you would take, including aspirin as well, makes you ineligible to donate. So believe it or not, only 50% of Canadians are eligible to donate. That's about half the people in this room, but only 4% of Canadians donate, which is nothing. Not a lot of people donate blood in Canada. And in Vancouver, in metropolitan areas like Vancouver and Toronto, only 2% of Vancouverites and 2% of Torontonians actually donate blood. everyone tells me the same thing. I'm really busy, working 8 to 8, don't have time to donate. I'm like, no worries, I totally understand that. But if only 50, if even double that people donated blood, we would have enough blood in our inventory to continuously help patients. And so we wouldn't have to prolong surgeries, etc. From after donation, so when you donate blood at Oak Street on February the 13th, it's quite exciting to donate at Oak Street because it's essentially the center for the BC Yukon region. Oak Street collects about over 400 units of blood every week, and as a result, we are actually, when you go to the clinic, it's on the first floor, but on the second floor is actually our entire production and distribution facility is on the second floor. So it's quite exciting because all the blood that's collected in BC, Victoria, Kelowna, Kamloops, all get, I want to say shipped, driven back to Oak Street, taken to the second floor, taken through production distribution, and redistributed out. So when you donate blood at Oak Street, it literally gets on a trolley and just goes upstairs. I don't know, to me that's amazing, like you're part of that hub. So testing, everyone's like, oh, like do you test the blood? Yes, we do test the blood. We test it for HIV, Hep B, Hep C, syphilis, West Nile virus. There's about 14 different tests that we do to make sure that the blood is safe. It's all done in a testing facility in Edmonton. So when you donate blood, you probably notice that they take a couple of vials, 5 milliliter small vials from you before you actually go into before the real donation happens. A couple of those vials are taken to our production lab for testing, but the rest are shipped off to Edmonton within 12 to 24 hours to really, to really make sure that the blood that you have is safe, or that you donate is safe. Production. So as I mentioned earlier, we divide the blood into 3 different products: platelets, plasma, red blood cells. White blood cells, we just filter that through and we throw that away because really we don't want the white blood cells. And labeling and distribution. So from there, it goes, after production, goes to labeling, distribution, goes out the door to hospitals like BC Children's, Royal Columbian, Vancouver General Hospital. So blood has an expiry date. I don't know why I get this number mixed up all the time. I believe it was 42 days. It's either 46 or 42 days. But, just like milk, I can't believe I'm equating blood to milk. It's about a 5 days is like 5 to 7 days is approximately how fast, or how, like the day that you donate to the day that it gets used by a patient. That's about how long it takes. It's amazing. It goes out of our distribution in about 2 to 3 days, and then it goes to a hospital patient in the next couple of days. Children in particular, I love being beside Children's Hospital. There's such a connection to it. Children in particular need the freshest blood. It sounds kind of gross, but the fact is that when you donate blood, it goes right upstairs to production distribution. It goes right out the door next door to Children's Hospital. Blood bank, the transfusion process. So I'll talk later about how many units of blood it takes to help a car accident victim, help a leukemia patient. But so the transfusion process is obviously very important. And you get a happy child like this one over here. All right, so as I mentioned before, your blood is composed of four main components. So as I mentioned, we are constantly needing new donors. People either age out, they're ineligible to donate, they travel to Mexico and sit in the sun, and they come back and they find out that they're not able to donate. Very disappointed. And as I mentioned, 5 days after you donated, it's been shipped to hospitals, and you can donate every 56 days, so it's about every 2 months. For ladies, I usually recommend, especially because we usually have a little lower iron levels, maybe 3 months if you can do it. I definitely understand, for whatever reason, if you can't donate blood, I just tell people to get someone else to donate if they are unable to donate. Okay, I thought this would be really interesting to this group. These are all the statistics. I love numbers. So, for you blood donors out there or non-blood donors, pretty sure you might have an idea or might know what your blood type is. I'm A positive myself. I like to joke that it's my report card when I was in high school, but what do you know? So for O positive and A positive are the most common blood types in Canada. O positive is at 39% of Canadians. A positive is 36% of Canadians. But the scary, I don't want to say scary thing, but the interesting thing is that O negative right now is in demand. It's about the O negative population is about 7% of Canadians. Not a lot, considering that, especially in emergencies and car, like real emergencies, O negative blood is what is used, especially if they don't have time to type the person. B positive is next at 7.5%, and I don't know why it says group B, but AB is the next at 2.5%. AB positive is actually a universal recipient, so if you're AB positive, you're quite lucky, I guess, in that case. You can take any blood type. And at O, and a little interesting fact about O positive type blood, you can technically donate blood to anybody who's positive type. So I could receive O positive blood because I'm A positive. All right, so I'm just gonna right up here. This is quite interesting. So everyone likes to say like, oh, like how do you know who you can donate to or who you can't donate to? So on our blood, we have, so basically when people think about A, B, or, so there's 3 different antibodies in our blood. There's 3 different antibodies in our blood. Main antibodies, of course there's a lot more out there. A, B, and the rhesus factor, which is what makes it positive or negative. The rhesus factor is the 3rd antibody. And so what makes O negative so special, I guess in that case, is because it's free of all those antibodies. It doesn't have A, no B, and it's negative for the rhesus factor. That kind of makes sense? Yes? Okay, we're good. Great. So as you can probably see, O negative can donate blood to everybody, which is, so if you're O negative, my eyes will light up. Yes? You're O negative? Ooh. Shouldn't have told me that.
Get him.
We'll talk later. Yes.
Are there ethnic associations with
For these blood types? Yes. Okay, this is quite, I went to Churchill Secondary the other day, the one just down over here. Primarily Chinese population, not gonna lie. And it's interesting, so all the kids that I typed, all positive type. So I've heard stories about how in China, it's almost like 99 point, some ridiculously high percentage is positive type blood. And I think there was some, probably Caucasian girl out there, she needed O negative type blood. They actually had to fly in O negative because they didn't have any available for her, or that matched. Another interesting, so you most likely wouldn't find someone who's Asian or East Asian to have negative type blood. So also where the O negative actually comes from is usually around like northern Europe, like Scandinavia. Those are predominant, I would say predominantly, but they do have a lot of O negative or A negative, B negative population from there. Yes. Yeah, it's quite, that was quite interesting. When I heard that, I was like, wow. And another thing too is like, let's say a South Asian or Asian, there are of course like just little different antibodies that are, I won't say antibodies, maybe antigens that are in your blood that you can only receive from people that have that same antigen as well. So it's not just a matter of like those 3 A positive, B positive, or A, B, O, or rhesus factor. There's other little factors in there that relate to your ethnicity. Did I kind of answer that question? Yeah. So as I mentioned before, how many units are required to save a life? And I remember when I first started saying units, people were a little bit uncomfortable with that. But the way I see it is that, when you donate blood, you donate 1 unit. It's 1 donation, but it's 1 unit that will save someone's life. A car crash victim needs up to 50 people to donate blood. 50 donors, 50 units. There's about, 30 people here in this room? Everyone would have to donate blood to save someone's life. Leukemia, if you're going through cancer treatment or treatment for leukemia or aplastic anemia, you constantly need blood. Anyone with thalassemia, they need 2 units of blood every single month. or red blood cells every single month. And I hear from some people, they're just like, wow, like I do feel a lot better after I receive my transfusion. Okay, eligibility. This is where it gets fun. Yes, as I mentioned before, medication does have a factor. You can check it out. So if you're interested, so before you go in to donate blood, especially if you're a new donor, I would really recommend that you go online and check it out. Just kind of do the quick quiz to make sure, just to double check that you are able to donate. It sucks when you show up and you can't donate and you feel like, oh, like it's all about me. They rejected me. No, right? It's super common. It's like, oh, you don't want my blood, it's tainted. I hear that all the time. It's dirty blood. I'm like, well, that's not quite it. It's just that it's just that with Canadian Blood Services, relating to our history of transfused diseases, we want to make sure that patients are receiving the safest blood possible. So it's not so much as rejecting you. We're just we just want to really make sure that keeping the patient on top of mind. I believe I have a slide later here going over eligibility requirements. So I'll get to that. So we'll talk about the donation. I didn't plan that out very well. We're going to talk about the donation process right now. So hi.
Sorry, can we back up? I have a question about the eligibility quiz.
Ooh, yes.
Is that reviewed by a health professional after it's submitted, or is it an immediate response to your question?
No. It's just an immediate response. It's like I wouldn't say a survey. It's like you click yes, it tells you, okay, whether you can donate. They don't ask you like, oh, like, are you pregnant? Are you a pregnant woman? Or are you breastfeeding in the last 6 months? You say yes, and then it'll be like, oh, sorry, you can't donate. So it just kind of makes people a little conscious about their eligibility. I have sent people lists before, and they'll be like, yeah, but they won't exactly read it.
So it's like a preliminary screening.
Yes. So when you go in to donate, you do fill out a long record of donation form about your personal and physical history. But that is all confidential. That is reviewed with you by a nurse, an RN. So when you show up to the clinic, bring your ID. I don't have to preach that. Sometimes I have to put it into high schoolers' head that nobody brings their wallet, of course. Bring your ID, driver's license is fine, BC ID is fine. There's a pamphlet that you will have to read that says what you must know to donate blood. And you're like, okay, fine, I'll read about that. Step 2 for screening, we do test your hemoglobin levels. We don't test it's not exactly your iron levels. Hemoglobin can be related to your ferritin levels, but let's say if you think or you know that you're anemic, I wouldn't suggest that you donate. I do have some ladies though that do take iron pills because they believe so strongly in it. I'm like, you go, girl. So the donor questionnaire, like I mentioned, is that long donor questionnaire form. They'll ask you questions like, have you touched monkeys have you interacted with monkeys in the last year? And I was like, oh,
Just my husband.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, Amy.
Just my
I know. I was like, wow, they actually have that question there. Okay, well, let me just think about that. They ask you things like, have you traveled anywhere in the last year? And gosh, it's been a while since I've taken a look at that. How are you feeling today? So if you are slightly feeling just a little bit of a cold coming on, a little bit of that flu is still there, I wouldn't suggest that you come in, wait until later. So yeah, fill out the donor questionnaire, and then you're eventually going to get after that you're going to get a private screening with the nurse. So that is where you could bring out the dirty laundry and to really double check to see whether or not you're able to donate. This is 100% confidential. Our nurses are trained, and if they do have questions or they're not feeling confident as to whether or not you can donate, it might be elevated to one of our medical team in QA, quality assurance. But you might not be able to donate at that time, just a heads up. But that doesn't usually happen.
How about age?
Age. So it just got changed September 28th. It used to be that if you were a new donor over 61, you wouldn't be able to donate. Now it's like, just come on in. We'll take you all. Because what ends up happening is that we found that older, over 61 donors sometimes just as healthy, built like a horse. I don't know what you guys eat. Able to donate. They are perfectly fine. They have a doctor's note. Now you don't need a doctor's note to donate if you're over 61. But of course, we still recommend that you still have that conversation with your doctor just in case. So yeah, a lot of our experienced donors, 7,500 donations in their lifetime, 150 donations, they are donating until they're like 70, 71, which is absolutely amazing. So it's basically as long as you're able and feeling healthy enough to donate, you can, with that conversation with your doctor. Let me stress that. So the donation donation period. So when you're sitting on the bed, it takes about 5 to 15 minutes to donate. I can't stress enough how important it is to hydrate well before you come in. It makes such a big difference. I'm 110 pounds. I would donate the same amount as Ian. I'm so sorry. As Ian over here.
That's way more than you.
Look at the size of my leg. No. It's like, even that, or like a big guy who's like 6 feet tall, who's like 200 pounds. I would donate the same amount as he would. 450 to 500 milliliters approximately. So that impact on me is a little bit longer, which is why personally I donate about 1 to 2 times a year. I'm good with that. My body's like, yeah, we're okay. Which is why when especially new donors come in, drink lots of water the night before. I wouldn't say go on that weekend bender, and eat something before coming in. Have a breakfast. Safe to donate. All of our needles are brand new, and you have trained phlebotomists doing the venipuncture. So the RNs, the nurses, are the ones that do the interview with you, the private screening, and the phlebotomists are the one that would do the blood drawing. Okay. Everyone's like, oh, the volunteers. I'm like, they're paid staff. So then right after that, you rest for about 5 minutes to kind of, assess how you're feeling. You kind of, you want to keep sign, make sure that if you're feeling even like a little bit faint, that you say something. I know some people that will just hold it in and they'll just hope to ride it out, but nope, just say something right away because it makes it so much easier. You rest there for about 5 minutes and then get your juice and cookies. This is the whole reason why people donate blood, is for the juice and cookies. We used to have peach juice, and I still get complaints of why I don't have the peach juice, and I'm so sorry. But I'm happy that they came in for the peach juice. But we have lovely volunteers in our clinic, especially the Oak Street Clinic. Some of those ladies have been there for 30 years. They have their sons and daughters volunteering with us, and I think even a couple grandchildren. Hey. We have Oasis is our main supplier for the juice, but if you can't drink the juice, we have tea, hot water, tea, coffee, water as well. Yeah. So that's definitely water. And for the cookies, Peak Freens, Oreos. I like the Peak Freens, Oreos. But it's a good question about the cookies, though. I don't know about kosher. Not that it matters to this group, but we do have a lot of Jewish synagogues around here. But we do have gluten-free, a lot of sesame snaps. So if you want those, then definitely feel free to have those. We also have bits and bites as well. I can go through the list. All right, so you don't have to have our juice and cookies, but you can just sit there, relax for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just assess how you're feeling. Our volunteers will, be there to make sure in case you have a rebleed or in case you're not feeling so great. We just want to be there to monitor you. All right, here we go. Eligibility requirements. You have to be over 110 pounds to donate. And I don't know why I have ladies, 17, 23. Bring photo ID. And like I mentioned before, hydrate and drink lots of water. Because I talked to so many people like, I should have followed what you said. I'm like, of course you should have. So if you traveled anywhere, us Vancouverites, we love traveling. We love going to Mexico, China, India, all those exotic places. Those might be at risk for malaria right now. Wasn't it Zika? The Zika virus? Yeah, so we just came out yesterday from our research center that we will be doing a temporary deferral for people who have traveled to those Zika countries. Just, we don't want to introduce that to our blood products. And the same thing when we had that measles outbreak in Chilliwack 2 years ago or so, we actually had to close down blood donor clinics because we were concerned about the impact on our blood system. New tattoos and piercings, wait 6 months before you donate. Everyone thinks it's a year. No, it's been changed to 6 months. And if you're sick with the cold or the flu, or even just remotely getting over it, I wouldn't suggest it. If your throat's a little scratchy, don't even go there. And as I mentioned, age, even if you're 61 or older, it's totally fine. You have to be minimum 17 years old. So on your 17th birthday, you can come in to donate. Alrighty, so now what? So as I mentioned, check your eligibility to make sure you can donate. If you have any questions, medication, diabetes, I can name a few, call our hotline. It's a 24-hour hotline. I call it sometimes when I'm confused or when I don't know the answer. 1-888 to donate. You can talk to a nurse 24/7 and just be like, just wanted to double check before I come in, and so I don't waste my time. You can book an appointment. We have clinics all over the Lower Mainland, but I have a feeling that Oak Street is going to be their main hub. We also have a clinic in downtown Vancouver. No one knows about that. That is our little downtown gym. Open Mondays to Wednesdays, 8 to 2. But Oak Street in particular is open 6 days a week. We're open all the time. It's so convenient to come and donate at Oak Street. So people can donate in the evening or in the morning. It's great. You can go on blood.ca to book an appointment, or some people like to call the hotline. Totally fine. But we also have a new Give Blood app for those technologically minded people. It's great. You can find out open appointments and you just kind of book yourself in there. Okay, so that's done for the blood donation side. I'm going to start talking about One Match, which is our Canadian Stem Cell and Bone Marrow registry. So, I'm going to go back. So what One Match is if there's any patients out there that has leukemia, aplastic anemia, myeloma, they need new stem cells. They need a bone marrow transplant. They need that to save their life. It's their last option. Chemotherapy isn't working, radiation isn't working. This is going to be the one move that will save their life. So you probably heard about siblings donating their bone marrow to their siblings. Like their sibling was a match for them, so then they donated. That's about 25% of the population, or of patients that are a match for their sibling. That means 75% of patients need to find a match from an unrelated donor, which is where One Match comes in. We have about 350,000 people on our registry, but we're trying to increase that, obviously, to meet the ethnic diversity of what Canada is. I'll talk about that later, too. And so the interesting thing is that in terms of I believe there's about 3 million people on the international registry, and every day there's 1,000 Canadians out there that are looking for a stem cell match. 1,000 people that are relying on an unrelated donor or a related donor to step up, donate their stem cells or bone marrow and save their life. Has anyone heard about Nancy Taylor, who she's Dutch Indonesian and she has leukemia? No? There was in North Vancouver. So there was recently in early January, Nancy Taylor was in November she was diagnosed with leukemia. She's Dutch Indonesian, so she's looking for another, so she would most likely be a match from someone else who is also Dutch Indonesian, and she was asking them to donate their stem cells if they were a match to her. So what I do actually, I go to universities, high schools, community groups, organizations to register people to be stem cell donors. All it takes is a quick cheek swab. You have a Q-tip, you can swab the inside of your cheek, and then you could be on the registry in case there's someone out there like Nancy that you were a match for. So what we're looking, I don't know why I have it here. Okay, so there's 2 ways to donate your stem cells. Everyone always thinks about oh, it's super painful. I'm going to talk, no, it's not too bad. I'll talk about that later. This is the most common way. 80% of procedures are done this way. It's called peripheral blood stem cell donation, and it's just like blood donation. Have you ever seen the platelet clinic at Oak Street? It's very similar to that. Blood comes out of one arm, divides into stem cells and blood goes back through the other arm. So it's like that for about 2 or so hours. 80% of procedures are done this way for most patients. You are given a drug called GCSF that brings the stem cells up from your bone marrow into your bloodstream, so it's easier to come out. Those are just that's just one of the risks that are involved. And obviously, risk of infection from the site of the needle. This is when everyone just goes like, ooh, bone marrow donation, oh gosh. We do not take it out of the back of your spine. We take it out of the back of one hip bone. So when we knock you out with general anesthesia, so you don't feel anything. You've probably seen all those TV shows or episodes where they're just taking out the back of your spine. It's super painful. You have to be conscious for it. But no, when you donate your bone marrow, it's only out of the back of one hip bone, and you donate about 500 milliliters of bone marrow and blood and stem cells. Some of the risks involved is that you will feel a little nauseous from the general anesthesia. There's obviously a risk of infection at the site of the extraction, but I think the biggest thing is that your body will feel sore after a couple days. You'll feel like you slipped on ice, and feel like you worked out too hard, you did the ground's grind. But otherwise, like it's only 10 to 20% of procedures are done this way. And usually for high-risk patients or for children. So I usually do the guilt trip with this, like it's your granddaughter or your little brother, would you donate your bone marrow to them? This is gonna be someone else's brother.
How long does that process do?
This is like 45 minutes. 45 minutes or so. And it's obviously all done by a doctor. Third way, umbilical cord blood donation. I mentioned earlier about our new public cord blood bank. So when you deliver at BC Women's Hospital, it's only BC Women's Hospital. It's not available at any other hospital. When you deliver, your placenta and your cord blood, your umbilical cord are just discarded. No one uses, it's either discarded, or if you make that conscious decision to pay for private banking, that's totally fine. But for most women, they don't decide to do private banking. It's just thrown away. Now we have this option to donate.
Why isn't it automatically done unless you want to have private?
It's the same thing.
My daughter did it, but she had to sign.
Yes. Oh, she did it. Okay, amazing. It's just having informed consent. It's just like with organ and tissue donation. I know, it's the same thing with organ and tissue donation. It's like it should be just a default that you get it, but we're not there yet. It's just started. I know, it makes you upset. We think of all the cord blood I can have, all those umbilical cords. It'd be fabulous. Yes. So where was I? All right. So so like I said, the placenta and they're just gonna be thrown away. Why not just donate it? And the fact is, instead of us having to chase down donors for peripheral blood stem cell donation or bone marrow donation, we have the cord blood available right there in our facility in Edmonton, which is amazing. It usually takes about 2 cord blood units to save the life of an adult, 1 cord blood unit for a child. So if you know of any other women, just like your daughter who donated, they can go online at blood.ca and look for cord blood requirements. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we are right now looking, so our ideal donor is men 17 to 35 years old and ethnically diverse.
Why me?
Why men? Exactly. And of course, I don't know if I have that slide in. Why men? Okay, here we go. So why men? So the reason why we're looking for men, I'm a feminist. I am all about female equality to men, and it's like why wouldn't you take women? Just biologically we are made up different. We have like when we get pregnant, our bodies develop antibodies that don't necessarily relate well to the patient. Men they're bigger than us ladies. You have a higher stem cell count and stem cell volume than we do. You can donate more stem cells than us ladies. There's also less risk of graft versus host disease. There's less risk of rejection from the patient because you don't have the same antibodies that us ladies do. I think, so right now, the reason why we're looking for a younger demographic, 17 to 35, is because, and technically, young men who are 21 years old are the most called upon by our one match staff. And I know One Match sounds like a dating service. It's not something, I wish I could choose a different name. But Yeah, but technically it's young men 21 years old. They have the highest stem cell volume. They're at the peak of their physical health. But I tell women, I'm like, look, if you are, like, we still encourage women to register just in case, but to bring a guy friend along with them too. Women are still called, but I think it's one of those things that goes between myself or my younger brother. They would be choosing my younger brother. That's just what doctors are looking for right now. And what I was mentioning before in terms of ethnicity, why we're looking for ethnically diverse men, is because, as I mentioned before, that Nancy Taylor woman who's Dutch Indonesian, she'd have to find a match for someone else who's Dutch Indonesian. It's relating to ethnicity. I'm Chinese. If I was a patient, I would have to find another match, if not my brother, from another Chinese patient. Someone who is sorry, I'm standing in the way of people. Someone who is half white, half Caucasian, half Indonesian, or half Chinese would be most likely to find a match for someone else who is that. We all know that Canada is not. Our registry right now is composed of 70% Caucasian. That means that the 30% of our registry is visibly ethnic people. We're trying to really increase that because that's not Canada. That's definitely not Vancouver. That's what I can say. On our stem cells, we have what's called human leukocyte antigen markings. So it's located outside of our white blood cells, and like I said, it's essentially matched to your ethnicity. So then they try to get an 8 out of 10 match, or 9 out of 10 match, 10 out of 10 match to really make sure that that's a good match. But for cord blood, I think it's like 6. It's out of 8, so you can have like 6 out of 8 match. It's a little more flexible. So, as I mentioned, so here we go. Men, 17 to 35 years old, only make up 12% of our registry. You can see how many women we have on the registry, which is insane. We had someone who was, I think, 40 years old, and she was just like, yeah, I'm going to be out for a little while. It's, I don't know, it's kind of inconvenient. But it's like, when we said to her, we're like, look, like, you were the only person's match to there was no one else in the registry. She was like, wow, that's amazing. To imagine that you're the only person in the world who's a match for that patient. We have people donating stem cells in Germany to Canadian patients, the UK to Canadian patients, and vice versa. Like I mentioned, 70% of our registry is Caucasian. We're really trying to increase the Chinese component and the South Asian component as well. Okay. I sped through that. All right, so.
Until after she's done, please, Laura.
Oh.
We haven't started the question period yet.
Well,
Okay, well maybe I'll go to the question thing in a second.
Laura's first step, which was.
All right, so I'm just gonna wrap it up a little bit before our question period. Yeah, no problem. So I'm just gonna wrap it up before our question period. So just to summarize, for registering as a potential stem cell donor, you're not, so by registering for one match, I want to stress that you're just going to be on the registry. You're going to be there just in case someone's a match for you, or just in case you're a match for a patient. Some people are on the registry their entire life. You're on the registry until you're 60 years old, but, without ever being called. I know this one Filipino 17-year-old who registered, he was called within 2 months. That just meant that there was a patient out there who was Filipino as well that was looking for a match. And as soon as they saw him on the registry, they're like, perfect, would you want to save the life of someone else? I also want to stress that age requirement is quite firm, 17 to 35 years old, with a focus on men. So I don't know if some of you are able to register. If you can, that's great. If you can't, we encourage you to donate blood or help on other ways or be advocates for us. And again, that's the hard thing about Canadian Blood Services and donating blood, is that it's hard not to feel like it's not you. But I just want to really enforce that if you are able to donate, if you are that 50% who's able to donate blood, who is able to be on the one match registry, to do so, or to encourage someone else to. All right. So we're good, Ian. We can wrap it up.
Thank you, Cherise.
Wonderful.